All right. NFC, AFC Championship Week, NFLC show, as always with Carl, me, Dave, and yeah, we're simultaneously casting on Bearski Film as well as Science My Podcast Network. Um, Carl, I'm sad football's coming to an end. Overall, it's been a fun season, but I don't know. It's bittersweet. So we'll get into it. Um, some of my two favorite people that come in every time are already showing some love. So hey, Daniel Jeffries, hey Crimson, nice to see you guys as well. Yeah, so we were texting through the Buffalo and the Kansas City game, so I know you were watching that. Few sheets to the wind on that one. That was I had a good few laughs texting you guys back and forth on that one, and then
Hey, just to make sure, the Bearski Film Twitter account, it hasn't been compromised, has it?
no, why would it be? Why would you say
I
that?
don't know. We may have to go into the weeds, as you say, on what's going
Yeah,
on over on the
we'll
Bearski
get into the
Film
weeds.
timeline, Twitter
There's
timeline.
not too much NFL stuff going on, so we can get into some more localized stuff anyway. But um, yeah, I'll start that with saying I'm a feminist, equal rights. Okay, so when Courtney Cronin gets picked on, we're gonna pick on equally.
Yeah,
Funny.
it's just an homage to how successful she is, right? If you've got people asking Courtney Cronin to show whole, you know that Courtney Cronin has made it. And I agree with your sentiment. Had a fantastic laugh there, so thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I first of all, I need to emphasize, I'm not a Courtney Cronin fan by any means aesthetically. I mean, I think she's literally one of the best Bears beat reporters in the last like 5 to 10 years. Like objectively, she is like she's good at her fucking job. Whatever. And but yeah, so we can start back with reviewing those NFC AFC championships, maybe some forecasts for the teams, and then get into that Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes off. Catch up on some coaching news. I think that was pretty fun and interesting. We can have a good laugh with those two. Preview some Super Bowl and then get into local stuff with Bears. So, how did you enjoy the NFC Championship, and how did it go based on your expectations?
Well, from afar, right? I went to bed last night very, very angry and frustrated. Then I woke up today and I realized, at least we got 3 watchable quarters of football. That was good. And the fourth quarter that's gone missing was the second half of the Eagles Redskins game, man. That was just, I don't know. I had watched the Redskins come back at home and beat Philadelphia semi recently, and I watched their Thursday night matchup where it was not a blowout whatsoever. I didn't expect a blowout, and I didn't think that the injured Sam Cosmi would allow the Redskins and their star young quarterback to have the worst game of his career, not just in the NFL. I didn't expect Saquon Barkley to redefine what it means to be an NFL running back. It was just a blowout, man. I really don't know what to say about it other than it was very unexpected, but bravo to the Eagles.
Yeah, it was very unexpected for me based on the fact that I mostly bet towards the Washington football team, and I don't know. I think we just expected more out of Jaden Daniels and the miracle, and like we had mentioned last week, I was like, man, I just keep waiting for them to run into the buzzsaw. They definitely ran into a fucking buzzsaw yesterday, but
All good
I thought they
things
were the
come to
buzzsaw.
an end. It's very obvious that this Redskins football team in 2024 had been punching above their weight. I mean, I made a comment last week about how Ben Johnson was able to bust Jared Goff's head through this, ceiling of his top performance level. That's the epitome of what the Redskins achieved this season. Another team where don't be surprised if they miss the playoffs next year. It's just how did
Yeah.
they do it?
We've been talking about that. I like high variance thoughts in the NFL because they're hard to predict, but they're always there. They're always there. I mean, we have 4 new teams in the playoffs every year. We have 4 teams out of the playoffs every year. We have a worst to first. We have a first to worst. Like high variance stuff. NFL defenses, they go up, they go down. There's teams with good quarterback play that somehow disappears. The Commanders are 100%, in my mind, the most obvious pick for a high variance team. I think they just had like a beautiful miracle season. I expected it to just kind of keep going just based on my gut and how it felt. But statistically, historically, and logically, like it was bound to burst. No rookie quarterback has ever led their team to a Super Bowl, not to mention win a Super Bowl.
They have, I believe, that one Brock Purdy took the 49ers to the Super Bowl in their rookie season. Definitely did not win it, though.
I could have sworn I heard a statistic. You're probably right more than I am, but it was like Ben Roethlisberger, some random '80s guy, and then it was Brock Purdy. But I thought they all lost in like NFC and AFC championships. But whatever, irrelevant.
I can't remember the Steelers. This is kind of like the dawn of my football remembrance, right? I believe that there was who was the quarterback for the Steelers that year? Was it Maddox? Is it Tommy Maddox? I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I think so.
But Maddox got injured in the first game of the year,
Yeah,
and Ben Roethlisberger went 15-1 as a rookie, but lost in the AFC Championship game, I believe. But I'm pretty sure Brock Purdy took the team all the way to the Super Bowl.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sure somebody could fact check that, but it was kind of irrelevant in terms of, Jaden being the first rookie quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl probably was never going to happen. My only other thought on this game, and you can kind of comment on it, is I feel robbed of a Lions-Eagles NFC championship. And robbed is a hard word to say because the Commanders won it and they earned it, and the Lions were at the point of the season where they were licking their wounds kind of thing. So I understand why it happened, but I don't know. Any given Sunday type of thing. I could have seen the Lions team, even injured, beating the Eagles or at least putting up a better fight schematically, physically, whatever else. But I think the best team in the NFC probably did end up going to the Super Bowl, which is not saying much. But if it wasn't the Eagles, I think I would have liked to have seen a Lions-Eagles NFC championship.
Yeah, you'd have a bit of strength on strength. I still feel strongly that the strength of the Eagles' defense is their secondary. But Jalen Carter's no slouch. I would have loved to seen if Jalen Carter could get away with slapping a Frank Ragnow, a Zeitler, anyone on that Lions offensive line. So it would have been a better football game, and that's not saying much again because we only got half of a game played yesterday. There's a point I wanted to make, but it's slipping my mind, so I'm gonna digress on this.
Washington, the only thing I also feel bad for Washington is you're going to hear a lot of their fans going like, well, this is just the beginning of our dynasty and it's going to keep going. And in my head, anytime your team gets this close, you got to hope it goes all the way because you might not ever get a chance to get back there. And I don't know if I trust that Washington will.
And not that I don't know if this is exactly what I wanted to say, but I definitely at some point wanted to mention that all the Redskins fans are now coming out of the woodwork and being very aggressive and telling you we didn't deserve to be here. Our team sucks. Our quarterback is the only reason we're here because our team sucks. Well, I think you're kind of right, but is it possible for this to be replicated? I mean, I feel that the Redskins have a bad football team. Like, they don't have a star running back. They've got a decent running back by committee. Unfortunately, the old Austin Eckler popped himself up, and he caused some early fumbles that really allowed that game to snowball. Brian Robinson, kudos to you for even being able to play football, but you're no star, I'm sorry. Your offensive line, how can a Sam Cosmi injury just completely derail everything that's going on there? Terry McLaurin kind of regressed back to the mean as well as kind of being like, I don't know, a middle-of-the-pack wide receiver one, even though I thought that he was having like a top 5 in the NFL wide receiver season. And your tight end situation too, like I saw a lot of Zach Ertz yesterday. Isn't that guy like 40? So you're going to need a new tight end as well. I pray to God it's not Colson Loveland. I don't know, man.
Yeah, and their defense, it's just going to be incremental draft picks. You got to trust that Adam Peters can upgrade guys that maybe you would think having a great season don't need upgrading, but in the long term will improve the structure of your team. So it's a team that, like, if they had ended up 8-9, I would have felt like it would be a more obvious way to upgrade them, and then they'd be kind of on the upturn. But now it's kind of a, can we replicate this? And I don't know if you can do that logically or consistently to the point where, like, they're going to be chasing this season for the next 5 years, and they may never match it, but they'll probably be a pretty damn good team. They'll probably be second in the East for a while. Eagles, the Cowboys are probably on the downturn. I mean, that team is just in a free fall. Giants are not going to get much better overnight. And so you're just going to be competing with the Eagles for the next 3 to 5 years for second place. So,
and let's talk about Dallas. This is the NFL ski show. We're talking about league-wide news, right?
Are you going to go coaching?
Matt Eberflus, we don't have to stick on it, but Matt Eberflus was confirmed to be the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, by Adam Schefter days ago. Then all of a sudden you're getting reports that they're getting other interview candidates, and obviously, again, just a little bit of salt for you, Dave. It's the Rooney Rule once again. So Eberflus is your defensive coordinator for Dallas, and they elevated Brian Schottenheimer, your offensive coordinator, to head coach. Maybe out of fear because you didn't want to lose him, or out of stupidity because you thought that you could get a slam dunk hire with Deion Sanders. But I don't know. Do you feel confident in those coaching moves and that the Dallas Cowboys, who have oodles and oodles of talent, assuming that Micah Parsons stays, would they be someone who would you be surprised if the Cowboys are better than the Redskins next year?
Surprised, yes. Shocked, no. I think they're going to be quite close. If anything, it'll be a two. There'll be a 2-win variation between the two of them at most, I'd say. So if like the Commanders are like a 9-10 win team, the Cowboys are potentially like a 9 or 8 win team, something like that. And if the Commanders are like a 10 or 12 win team, I could see the Cowboys being somewhere in the middle, like at 9, right? So, no, I don't. Here's the thing: it's like Dennis Allen. Everybody cheering for the Bears getting Dennis Allen. It's the exact same hire in Dallas. It's just a slight with Matt Eberflus. Yeah, as much as you hate to hear it, it pretty much is. They're kind of the same guy. They're both defensive minded. They were fine coaching up a defense, maybe in different methods. But I think they are a similar type of hire where you have Brian Schottenheimer kind of being that young offensive mind. And so you're shoring him up with a guy who's definitely been through the ringer before. I don't know how much good advice, Matt Eberflus is going to have compared to Dennis Allen. That remains to be seen. But both teams kind of did model it similarly. This young up-and-coming offensive guy, and they need somebody on the defensive side to kind of shore up things and not need too much oversight from the head coach. And that's what they got. So I don't think that Dallas is in a good place as a franchise. But you could easily say the same about Chicago. At least Chicago is going through some version of of change. The winds of change are blowing here. Whereas, Jerry Jones, the wind is like a fart in his diaper from Jack Daniels. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. No, there's definitely some diaper talk with Jerry Jones. You got that nail, right on the head. But with Eberflus versus Dennis Allen, I think that Eberflus, I guess at its core, you're not wrong in the sense that they're similar. But I think that the exciting part of Dennis Allen and something, again, directly relating to the Cowboys, another important coach that the Chicago Bears added over the weekend was Al Harris. Al Harris, in my opinion, is directly responsible for the interception return for a touchdown record that is being held by Deron Bland and the massive contract that Travion Diggs acquired from the Cowboys, right? Like, Al Harris is Himothy in the sense that he is probably the best defensive backs coach in the NFL. I would not say that he isn't. But when you add that to a Dennis Allen who maybe is a bit more aggressive and is more willing to have a Jalen Johnson shadow the number one wide receiver when it matters, I think that you could see a huge increase in the level of talent that I felt that the Chicago Bears already had. Again, specifically the secondary, right? If you can have Tyreek Stevenson, pull him out of whatever situation he's in and have him play at the level that he's capable of, and Jaquan Brisker stays healthy, I would not put it past the Chicago Bears next year to have the best secondary in the entire NFL.
Yeah, I think the talent was always there. I think with maybe you have a little bit more positivity towards the Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs duo. From what I remember seeing about them statistically, they have one of the worst they have one of the highest interception and aggression rates, but they also have the highest risks taken, which led to big plays down the field, which I don't hate.
Travion Diggs also may have given up the most yards as a cornerback one in the NFL too, right? But I guess pair my statement with I think that Jalen Johnson is twice as good as Travion Diggs. I think that the level and ability of Tyreek Stevenson when his head and all of his marbles are screwed on tight is just as good, if not better, than Deron Bland. So,
yeah, we can get a little bit more into the weeds on that in terms of what we expect out of the Bears and other teams, but I think the match is being made better. I think Dennis Allen, who's already a kind of schematic guy where he's going to, Matt Eberflus with Al Harris is a match made in hell, right? Because you've got these boring ass front sevens with just 4 down linebackers and You got your DB coach telling everybody to take risks and be aggressive. That's a recipe for disaster because you've got no pressure and no confusion up front while the guys in the back are taking all the risks and they look like fucking morons. And then on the other hand, Dennis Allen is going to throw in some weird blitz packages and, muddle up the line and have two linebackers over the A gap. And they're going to go in and then the defensive ends are going to backpedal. And it's going to be interesting stuff going on. NASCAR packages, all that stuff. So with the confusion that you're going to be able to create with a guy like Dennis Allen, which is what we know that he does, and then allowing those DBs to kind of jump on those routes with that confusion, you're definitely going to see some games with 2 or 3 interceptions from the Bears, DBs, because I'm not saying many, but against the young guys, against the guys who you haven't seen this yet, against, maybe the JJ McCarthy's of the world, maybe the Goofs of the world, right? So you're going to see some stuff where you can potentially win on schematics, kind of like how the Commanders won. Lack of talent all across the board, but they just schemed up really, really well. They had their defenders playing really, really hard, and they took some risks here and there. Frankie Louvu blitzing up the middle and all that stuff. Like, that guy was crazy.
All right. Perfect time to transition to this if your point is done, because I do have a question that I want to ask you, and I'll start by giving you my opinion on this.
Yep.
I think that the tush push should be abolished.
Ooh.
I think that debacle that they had where they essentially tried to have the referee give the Eagles a touchdown out of consistent, repeated, encroachment penalties, I thought that was quite simply an embarrassment to the sport of football and the NFL as a whole. What are your thoughts on potentially having that play simply abolished?
Initially, and I'm sure you can make a case that'll swing me more, I'm like 90-10 against what you just said. 10% of me understands that it's going to be hard to stop in certain situations. The other 90% of me watches the Buffalo Bills do what they did yesterday, and no one is stopping or preventing them from using a tush push or using a huge oversized quarterback.
The referees are, by allowing Chris Jones to line up offsides at least 4 times in a football game.
All right. Well, I mean, I digress on that point, but they're also running this weird like QB sneak where they pull the ball and, pull towards the left guard and the left tackle, B gap and stuff. That's what Josh Allen was running all day yesterday. And it's like, not every team can run the tush push. That's why the Eagles have a secret weapon, and that's why they get to use that. It's the same as saying like, well, when Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes are on the same field, there should be no plays allowed over 50 yards. It's like that's their secret weapon. That's the X factor. That's what keeps the NFL interesting. And if everybody could run it, they would. And then I would agree with you that it needs to be abolished. But until somebody other than the Eagles are allowed to do it, I don't know. And it also reminds me of old school football. And I do like that aspect of it. So I'm sure you can rebuttal what I just said. I could be too convinced, but right now, no.
It reminds me of rugby. And I just feel like if you want to watch rugby, just go watch rugby. I don't know. I just hate the foregone conclusion aspect. I don't ever want to see anyone get hurt, but I'm genuinely shocked that no one has ever gotten seriously injured in a play like that, especially your center, right? It feels like your center, who has their head down, is just in a complete compromised position with nose tackles, jumping linebackers. I don't know how that happens. And obviously it's not a personnel. The personnel definitely helps, right? No doubt the Eagles have a top 3 offensive line in the NFL, full stop. But I would think that the tush push, the success of that play comes from the center, and Jason Kelce is a Hall of Famer. He's gone, and they're still having success with it. Eagles rotated 2 centers yesterday out of injuries, Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens. You still got the great guard play on either side. Obviously, what I just said is wrong because you have the left guard as a backup. But again, I feel like that play needs to be abolished. Maybe I need to strengthen my argument on that, but just watching it, it gave me pure anger. And normally I only get anger towards football when I'm watching the Bears. That play legitimately pissed me off.
Yeah, I never get any of that.
Series of
plays. I get
plays.
Jealous a little bit, but I get jealous in the sense that it's their secret weapon. And like you said, if it's so dependent on the center and then they throw in a new center and it's just as effective, maybe it's more of a schematic thing. Maybe it's a practice thing. Maybe they're just really good at it. Maybe Jalen Hurts deserves a little more credit for being able to run it correctly.
But it's not like a Josh Allen situation where I've seen Josh Allen get it on his own because he picks the gap. And I know Paulie loves to point this out when it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, what's happening. Tom Brady's running the quarterback sneak, right? But I think the part that pisses me off the most is when you've got your strong players lining up behind you. Dallas Goedert, I saw the tight end who has like 10 syllables in his last name for the Eagles. It starts with a
Mhm.
C. Those are the players behind Jalen Hurts. And now we're pushing him. It just feels stupid.
I don't, I can't agree. I understand people's frustrations with it. I just don't like, I don't know. Like some things in the NFL seem unfair for a minute and then they just go away. I mean, I remember the wild you and people in 2008 and the Wildcat would get along great right now. But I think I see in a year or two when there's just certain teams that aren't going to be able to do it, including the Eagles, and then they're going to try to tush push and people just don't know how to do it correctly anymore, or they just don't have the bodies for it. I just don't see the tush push being a thing that we need to worry about being like a 5 to 10 year problem. I see it kind of disappearing in the next year or two. Come see me next year. If the Eagles win back to back Super Bowls with tush pushes, I'll reevaluate. But as of right now, what has the tush push got them? Like a Super Bowl appearance, maybe. And then, Jalen Hurts had the most running touchdowns from a quarterback ever because it's just keeping it simple, stupid. So I don't have an issue. Also, anybody in the chat, thank you so much for participating. If there are any specific questions, I'm keeping note of them and I'm going to bring them back around and answer them when the show kind of gets into a little bit more topic appropriate things. So like people like Daniel, some people also had some questions about like the Cowboys. When we go through the coaching stuff, we'll address some of that as well. We're kind of ripping on the Commanders, but for the Eagles, by the way, played a good game, man. Jalen Hurts kind of proved me wrong. He looked better than I thought. With 2 weeks of rest, I'm not going to be stupid enough to pick the Eagles to win because I don't know what more I need to see from the Chiefs to just not be that fucking stupid to not bet against them ever. And nobody should really, unless you want to just like be a contrarian. But they have a good team and they have about as good of a chance to beat the Chiefs as I've seen in a while. I thought that offensive line was it's so stupid to say an offensive line would be gimmicky, but in the sense of, I don't know how we can consider offensive line play just be like so dominant. The only team I could think of stopping Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo is a team like the Eagles and running the fuck out of that ball and running it down their throat. Saquon having a great game, keeping the ball away from the Chiefs. Saquon looks otherworldly. He is getting paid. I heard this stat on Part of My Take 2 weeks in a row, or like on Bill Simmons. He is getting paid less money than it was
Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis. Thank you, sir. Yep. And that is ridiculous. We need to reevaluate the running back position on how they get paid. Absolutely fucking nuts. And yeah, Nick Sirianni saved his job. I can't believe that worked based on Paulie's reaction to. That never works. What the Eagles did in reshuffling the way that their coaching staff is kind of like dictated. I could easily see Nick Sirianni winning the Super Bowl and still being fired somehow because it's just an upgradable position because he's just maybe not that good. I don't know what it is. But
He's also a basket case insane psycho. Literally
I've
stupid human, but
yeah, I've heard he's absolutely crazy, but
he's terrible.
I said, there's room for improvement there, and it still worked out. Kudos to them for not blowing it up and doing a small rebuild. They were just, hey, let's do this. I hope they win. I root for the Chiefs' excellence, but I also just want something new. Let's have another team, another city in the fucking country be happy, other than Kansas City, bumfuck Missouri. So yeah, thoughts on the Eagles in any way?
I've got kind of a question and then a follow up regarding it. So I think I know what your answer is regarding what you just, or after hearing what you just said. But do you feel like there's any sort of chicken or the egg situation when it comes to Saquon Barkley and his offensive line? Do you think that after what you saw from Saquon Barkley in New York, that the Eagles' offensive line is making him better and his performance is kind of unjust, especially after you see like a Will Shipley just go to town on that drive, gash the Redskins even though they were already deflated? Or vice versa? Do you think that Saquon Barkley is literally so good that just because he's paired with even a competent offensive line, that Saquon Barkley is kind of reaching heights for a running back that we've never seen before? Or third point, I guess, would be, do you feel like it's a match made in heaven?
I think it's all of those things. You could literally go through all of those things and say yes. I would say Saquon Barkley would arguably have a better season next year, potentially, with one more year and the gelling of the offensive line. Um, I think Saquon would probably have a better season. I think at the same time, DeAndre Swift would have had 80% of the same season with that line if he had just stayed there with the Eagles.
Hold
And
on.
then, yeah.
80% of what he had previously? Like with the
No,
Eagles?
of what Saquon Barkley, if Saquon Barkley's at 2,000 yards and
The
20
argument
touchdowns,
the argument you're
he would
making
have
could not be more
1,717.
well documented in the sense that the Eagles last year, who had DeAndre Swift as their leading running back, played behind a better offensive line. I will fight you to the death. I think that Jason Kelce, the Hall of Famer, is apples to oranges when compared to Cam Jurgens. Cam Jurgens is closer to Sam Mustipher than he is to Jason Kelce. That's how good I think that Kelce is.
Okay. And that's fair too. But like I said, I mean, in general, I think, again, Saquon Barkley is somehow getting better as the season goes on, just because I think that the offensive line is gelling better. I think that they're figuring each other out the same way. You can't just like pop and play any position in the NFL and they just become really, really good. Foster's here. Hey, Foster. So
Who's that old guy? Foster, I hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're healthy.
I thought he was saying he was like, I listen for
appreciate
20.
you.
I can't listen anymore, but hopefully you can stay, Foster. But no, I think so. Yeah, it's all three of those things. And then match made in heaven. I think we're just watching like a perfect storm of football and Saquon Barkley in this offensive line. And it is a match made in heaven. And he'd be crazy to leave and get more money. I think he's on a 1-year deal,
So
if not two. But
this is the perfect point for me to bring up my follow-up question to you. Because of what we just said, Gabe Davis is being paid more money than Saquon Barkley. Let me paint this picture. If Saquon Barkley helps the Eagles win the Super Bowl and Saquon Barkley is your NFL Super Bowl MVP, should Saquon Barkley sit out next year and reinvent the wheel as far as it pertains to Le'Veon Bell?
ooh, that's a deeper conversation that I don't know if
I'm talking like
for.
sitting out and demanding a 50% increase. So I don't know what his contract is. My guess it's around $12 million. I'm talking like Saquon Barkley's not talking to no one on the Eagles until he's in the close to the $20 million a year stratosphere.
I think the money situation is more of a chicken or the egg argument than Saquon Barkley specifically, because there are a lot of running backs that are good on bad teams that will not get these stats. And because the stats are a byproduct of the impact that these running backs can have, it's so much more important that these offensive linemen get paid than running backs, because just history and statistics will tell you, you can plug and play a 5th-round running back like Pacheco or something, and as long as there's a decent offensive line and a game plan, he'll have stats. It's not about impact. It's about like
he'll have stats.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Eagles, the fentanyl Philadelphia Eagles, just absolutely blowing the backs off the Redskins by a running back.
I need to see what DeAndre Swift's stats were that year.
He had 1,000 yards. Saquon Barkley could have had the NFL rushing record. And the one thing I'll give to the fentanyl Philadelphia Eagles and their star running back, God bless the logic of saying I do not want to acquire the NFL rushing record against my former team in a fraudulent contest with an additional game in the hopes of saving my body and preserving myself physically for a Super Bowl run. Fucking kudos to you, Saquon Barkley. You are the real fucking deal for that, man.
And now they're actually in there, so good for them. Man, that's like a more of an off-season type of conversation. I don't know if I'm mentally prepared to have all the way through. So I'm gonna defer that and then say,
can I squash one more piece of very low-hanging fruit for Mr. Chad Speaker?
Yeah.
And Chad, not to point you out, man, you said that Saquon should be a Bear, not Swift. We jumped too quick in free agency. Saquon Barkley attended college at Penn State. I believe Saquon Barkley grew up as an Eagles fan. We had zero chance at signing him unless we offered him $20 million. But now we're talking about stupidity, and I'm very firm on the fact that Saquon Barkley would have the exact same stat line as DeAndre Swift this year behind our third-string backup practice squad offensive line over here in Chicago. So
I actually think it would have been worse because Saquon Barkley is more injury prone than DeAndre Swift, and I think he would have gotten hurt trying to do too much.
I would love to. I hate to say this, I'm leaning towards a PFF subscription because I like being able to reference things quickly during the shows, and I would adore being able to pull up what Saquon Barkley's yards after contact were. So I bet it's a lot higher than DeAndre Swift, but still, I mean, it'd be marginal at best with this terrible offensive line.
Yeah, for sure. So, Kansas City, Buffalo. It went exactly the way it should have gone. That's how I would review that game.
Yeah, the unfortunate truth.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills.
Unfortunate arranged marriage, Mr. Roger Goodell. Wink, wink.
Yeah, so I have some thoughts. I'll address the elephant in the room first. The 3 egregious calls would be considered the catch, which I'm going to just break down each egregious call, how I see it, and then overview about what they were how that affects. The catch was not a catch. Secondly, I think in 90% of NFL games, that first down call is called a first down. I wouldn't say it was definitive, but I think in most games in the NFL, you give the guy, the quarterback, the running back, whoever, the benefit of the doubt and the position of where the ball is relative to where the body is. And I think in most NFL games, that's considered a first down and called a first down. And then the third and final egregious, what was it? The like holding penalty or something like that. I don't remember. It was like it was like the big 3 things that people were complaining about.
Well, like I said, it kind of goes hand in hand with what I said earlier. But Chris Jones, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, however many LeBron James said in the past in his fantastic quote. How many times can you line up offsides, Chris Jones? Like, oh my God.
And then some of the holds. So, watching that game, I still didn't feel like the Bills looked scared and the Chiefs just looked calm and cool and collected like they usually do because that's what the situation dictates. The Bills are just nervous about fighting and beating Big Brother. But the Chiefs just did what the Chiefs do, and if you need to play a perfect game. It's there was a great quote in an interview from I think it was an NBA player on one of the Pivot podcasts, and he goes like, "You understand this is game 7 in Boston, and we're Philadelphia. We need to win by 20 so that we beat them on the scoreboard by 5." And that's how I feel you need to be when you beat the Chiefs or try to beat the Chiefs. You need to win by 10 so that you can win by 1. It's just the Bills, having said all that, I don't know if even those small adjustments and mistakes and calls, there's so many of them in an NFL game. I didn't feel like that game was horribly rigged for the Chiefs, but it didn't help the case for anybody with the argument. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't freak out if I was a Bills fan. I'd be freaking the fuck out. But as an objective third-party observer, I don't know, man. I don't know if it was even enough stuff that I saw to be just like, well, they got cheated and the Chiefs cheated again and whatever, I guess. It feels scripted and it looks ugly. Like I said, they didn't do themselves any favors to that point, to argue that point, but I don't know if the Bills would have won anyway with some of those calls going their way.
Yeah, I mean, couple things I want to kind of lay out. I feel like Patrick Mahomes is going to go down in history as the most uninspiring, just boring Hall of Fame quarterback post Tyreek Hill. All he does is waddle his way in for touchdowns and do his silly Gronk spikes and underhand shovel passes to Pacheco and Travis Kelce when it matters most. Like, it's just boring, bad to watch football, right? And then another point, I'm really good at finding the bottom feeders on social media, right? So a lot of Josh Allen sucks. He's not the Super Bowl. Sorry, he's not an MVP. He's not good enough to be my quarterback. All this type of shit from Bills fans. Oh, let's fire Sean McDermott because Sean McDermott, who is a defensive-minded head coach, is not good enough to get a stop when it matters. Well, you can't stop the referees, right? My point here is that the Bills are in a salary cap recovery year. No one expected the Buffalo Bills. A lot of people would say that they didn't expect the Buffalo Bills to make the playoffs. That's how much roster turnover that they experienced, right? So for them to even be in that game, bravo to them, and you shouldn't be mad when your wide receiver 1 is Khalil Shakir and you replace the great Gabe Davis, I say that jokingly, with Mac Hollins. I mean, you guys, and this is the last thing too. I hate the argument of saying that they shouldn't have traded away Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs. They were so lucky to be able to get some assets back, again, because they're in a salary cap reconstruction. Now, from face value, would you rather have Xavier Worthy than Keon Coleman? I don't know about that. I think that you already have Xavier Worthy on your football team in the body of Khalil Shakir, right? So you don't need to double dip there, have some two little gadget scat backs at wide receiver, whatever. I don't know, man. I think that the Bills are doing it right. It's just so damn unfortunate, right? No one wants this matchup. The majority of people were like me, in my opinion, and we wanted to see the rookie phenom Jaden Daniels against America's sweetheart, the Buffalo Bills, and we got punched in the balls, and we're getting none of that. So here we are.
Yeah, I don't know how much more there is for me to say about it other than the fact that it's just like it's the same shit as always. So I don't know. I don't want to overreact and get mad about it. I don't hate the Chiefs. I like seeing greatness, but at the same time, I root for something else. It would have been a much more fun Super Bowl personally, the same way I wish that we saw the Lions go against the Eagles. I really would rather see the Bills go against the Eagles. So it's just something I would prefer. Is it correct? Probably not. I mean, they should win. They deserve to win. I don't know. Every time we think they're done, they just keep getting away with it. They can't keep getting away with it. Once Kelsey retires after this year, which he will.
And Chris Jones.
I think Chris Jones as
Have
well.
you seen the tears on that man's face? My girlfriend kept asking me, why is he crying? Why is he crying?
Mine too. And
his football days are numbered.
I think he was just crying about the experience and stuff. I think he's wrapping it up. So is Kelsey. I think they're going to ride into the sunset together. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to retire by any means, but I wouldn't be shocked.
He could.
He does strike me as one of those guys who, like, we are all just going to retire, and I've made enough money. The guy's like a half a billionaire already.
It would make so much sense for him to, come out on top, so to speak, when his brother, the top, could have a situation that's boiling over before it's too much to handle. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put that negatively on Bearski film, but.
No, you're fine. That was hilarious. But yeah, I don't know. It's just ride off into the sunset together and fuck off so we don't have to watch you guys every year again. That's how I feel about it. So, yeah, moving on. I mean, I guess some of the more interesting stuff going in before we review the Super Bowl. NFL coaching updates. Sticking with our boys, the Bears. Sorry, I just got a comment. Great joke about Jackson Mahomes. So, I think so. Moving on with the Bears, Dennis Allen, I think is a great fit with Ben Johnson. I think some of the more supporting cast excites me more than a lot of the main cast, and I think that's what my conclusion kind of came to with Ben Johnson. And if you watched Bearski and us do a show last week, you and Nick, I believe it was Nick, you and I and Paulie, we kind of reviewed the Ben Johnson, how we feel about it. I still can't bring myself to get excited, but my thought process of Ben Johnson is there's a lot of guys like this who are not the rah-rah guys, who are the technicians like Sean McVay, who are the technicians like Kyle Shanahan, even Andy Reid, I would argue. I'm almost guarantee Andy Reid isn't getting up in the middle of the room and yelling at people and doing meetings and stuff like that. So when you do that, I think your supporting cast needs to be those guys for you. And guys like Al Harris, Antoine Randall, those guys excite me a lot in terms of being that link and that bridge between a technical guy like Ben Johnson and executing what he expects out of them and getting the feedback from the players and the get back from the players in that rah-rah way where you need these guys to be psychotic and convinced that they need to run through a wall. So Al Harris, Antoine Randall, I really like those hires. Dennis Allen's a really good hire. Richard Hightower being empowered probably a little bit more by Ben Johnson to do trick plays on punt stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm sure you've heard Richard Hightower talk, right? Just from that alone, the way that he speaks to the media, and I imagine that's exactly the same not exactly the same, but in the same manner to his players that he's coaching, right? I think that Richard Hightower is fucking fantastic. I wanted Richard Hightower to be the interim coach when Eberflus was fired. That would have made a lot more sense to allow Thomas Brown to excel in his actual role. Now, the one of the main pieces main strongest arguments that I'd have for why people are questioning retaining Richard Hightower for the Chicago Bears. You had a kick that was blocked to win a football game against your arch rival. The entire world said they wrote off the little Brazilian that could, Cairo Santos, and said, nope, your kick trajectory is too low. You suck. Go play putt-putt. Whatever the fuck they were saying, right? Well, fuck you. Richard Hightower fixed that. And then he got his game-winning kick against the Packers to end the season. So I think that Richard Hightower is a fucking fantastic piece that you're going to retain. You can't wipe the slate, in my opinion, and expect immediate success, right? I think that retaining Richard Hightower is maybe a signal that maybe the Bears think that they're closer than a lot of other teams might think that they are.
Yeah. So Dennis Allen's a good hire. I forgot his name already, our new offensive coordinator.
He is the man from the Broncos, the tight end coach. I will find you a name, but bit surprising. I did a show on Saturday, and I really wanted them to get David Shaw, but I listened to Greg Gabriel Talks Football today over on the Barroom Network, and they were saying that there's still a possibility that David Shaw could be brought back in some sort of advisory role. Just depends on how David Shaw and the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson all want to handle that.
Yeah. In terms of the offensive coordinator, I mean, it's not a big deal, I think, because he is young. Really, all you need to be there is in a supporting role and understand your place is to fully support Ben Johnson. Be somebody to bounce ideas off of, help create stuff, help create plays. But he's not going to get a chance to call plays. He's young. I think the checklist that Ben Johnson had said he needs from his offensive coordinator is basically to be young and hungry and work late nights and not have a family. And that's what you're going to get with a dude who's like 28.
And someone who he can trust, right? Because Ben Johnson's not going to be able to grind film anymore like the great Jacob Infante. Also a joke, by the way. He's not going to be able to grind film like that, right? So you need someone who's young and hungry, exactly as you just said. The name that we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is Declan Doyle, who has direct connections to the New Orleans Saints, obviously Dennis Allen, and when I was looking through pictures, I saw that Aaron Glenn spent a lot of time with the Sean Payton coaching staff in New Orleans, right? So you're getting some crossover there. I'm positive on that.
Yeah, and I believe he worked under Dan Campbell and Sean Payton as well, in some
possible,
point.
Probable.
So there is a bit of team, the same way the Atlanta Falcons. So I keep seeing the Ditka's nephew thing. I think that's been disproven, and it was a Wikipedia article.
Correct. Yeah, caught fire just because we're in our feels, but
yeah,
it's fake.
Funny, but it's fake. Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. The reference that we were making, I don't know if you want to do any of the Twitter stuff, but Courtney Cronin had posted that Declan Doyle is the new hire, and everybody, the top comment was, "Thanks for the news, Courtney." Now
so here, let me have this come full circle for you, because I spend way too much time on TikTok, right? Yeah. TikTok was taken down last Saturday night, and it was brought back Sunday morning. But the people who spend way too much time injecting their time, energy, resources, their brain power into politics, they thought that TikTok would be gone forever. So, what would women do in a scenario with social media where their content that they post is never going to be seen again? Let me just say that the hashtag #ShowWhole was very, very popular on TikTok. So that's why Courtney Cronin was asked, we'll call it, the question.
Uh-huh.
Now, well, did Brad Biggs interact with the Bearski Film account that had clearly been compromised last night?
No, I don't believe he did.
By the Einstein?
No, he did not. But
what a shame! What a shame! What a shame!
Yeah, as somebody who believes in fully equal treatment, I believe the other ESPN and insider of the Bears is Brad Biggs, and he usually posts a lot of stuff about the Bears. So I said, hey, if we're asking Courtney to show hole, I may as well ask Biggsy to show some holes. So yeah.
Now imagine them doing an interview together, and we get the chance to kind of 2-for-1.
That'd be amazing.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's the Bears wrap-up roundup. I think we can go through, and then I don't know if you have anything pulled up, Carl, about the coaching spots being filled, but we did lightly address the Cowboys, the coaching tracker maybe of 2024. But yeah, the Cowboys hired Matt Eberflus, upgraded Brian Schottenheimer, lost some pieces in the and Al Harris, but
I don't think we got a chance to talk about this last week. You've got to let me share this, and it will be full context for everyone watching.
Be my guest.
Gotta pull it up for me, my man.
Oh, hold on. Can I put some context to this? I
Absolutely,
was
go
so
for it, man.
excited. I was so excited to talk about Liam Cohen because I know how much you love to pick on autistic people. And
You
I thought,
fucking take that back.
and I love, and I looked at Liam Cohen and I just knew that somewhere out in the world, Carl was salivating about
I
just the
would I
new,
would love to
the,
have some sort of deep analysis DNA test performed on myself, because I feel like this is the exact way that I would react in a pressure situation as Mr. Liam Cohn did. Okay, just let me roll the clip, man. Let me roll. Everyone listening, the one time playthrough.
oh, Duval.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Dude, I need it one more time. The smile
Okay.
at the end. The
Look at his
smile at the end.
look at his left eye. You have to show
Oh,
his.
oh, I
Make
know.
it full screen. Do you know how to make it
Yeah.
full screen?
Yeah, I think so.
There's a little plus symbol at the top left. Yeah, here we go. Ready? Look at his left eye.
Duval.
Oh my god.
Oh,
It's so bad. It's so
it's
bad.
it's so bad, but it's so good.
No, it's not.
Oh,
When you
it's
have
so good.
this,
It's so much. It's so entertaining.
when you have this, yeah, it's very entertaining, but in a bad way. I mean, when you pair that with the story of him agreeing to a contract extension to be a very well-paid offensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, but the ink never touched the paper, and he ghosts Raheem Morris and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after telling them that he agreed to the contract.
Oh, and then using his child as a story for not doing.
Enlighten me on that. I have not heard about this.
Whoa. So he said that his kid got sick, and
Oh
used that
yeah.
as the reason he couldn't get in touch with them for like 48 hours. And then his wife hopped on social media and was like, "How dare you accuse him of lying about our kid being sick? He totally was sick. Doesn't mean you can't answer your fucking phone for 2 days."
And what's the
dickhead."
name of the general manager, or sorry, the owner of the Jaguars? Is it Shad Khan?
Khan, yeah.
Shad Khan, is he going to come out with a new, telecommunications fucking medium that's going to battle with AT&T now? Like,
Yeah,
doesn't
I
matter if
know.
your kid's sick, you can talk. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Slight breaking news. I don't know if you've seen this or if I'm late to the party, but Ian Cunningham is officially hired as Jacksonville's GM, giving the Bears 2 compensatory third round
Hold on. When did you see that?
just a second ago.
Are you capping?
Will Wright. Oh, nope. That is an old tweet, and that might be incorrect. But
This is the part on Bears Country podcast where I would play the outro.
oh yeah,
Just
I'm done.
total.
Yeah,
Nah,
nope, never
nah.
mind. But no. Like, so let me address this. Cliff Victoria, absolutely not. He is not his nephew. Anybody who's falling for that shit is because you fell for Wikipedia and an algorithm.
I appreciate that Swift Sports Network and the Thighs Spy podcast live on the bleeding edge, but sometimes it makes you bleed. And this is a situation where we got.
I didn't believe it for a second though. That's what that was my thing, that everybody kept like believing it. And I'm like, do you actually believe this? Like, of course it's not. You just type that into Google and like, of course it's not. But yeah, no. Yeah, sorry, Ampharius. I thought I saw Will Wright, who is generally speaking correct, but I think he was congratulating him in jest. We're on Liam Cohen. We may as well stay on Liam Cohen. That motherfucker, that dude. All I could think is if we didn't get Ben Johnson, that's who we would have ended up with. And I would have rather had Matt Eberflus for one more year than Liam Cohen at this point. I feel bad for Jags fans. And this is my catch-22. Ben Johnson killing his interviews and stuff and his press conferences does nothing for me because I've been hurt and I don't trust. But watching Liam Cohen crumble like that, I mean, I can't fathom a room full of 75 grown men football players and this guy just like eyebrowing me to death and just having these weird, oh man, I don't know what I would do. I can't fathom it. He already has his own hits principle. I don't know if you saw that part.
No,
as well.
what is it? What is it?
Oh, you didn't hear. They like to
Enlighten me.
They like to play fast. And that is
Liam Conehead?
Oh, Liam Conehead. That is great. We need to co-opt that. They play fast, which stands for not physical. It was
Fierce.
nope. It was better than that, but it was F. It was fast. It was aggressive. I'm gonna give you skip the F. Aggressive, situational, and tough. So yeah, he's already hitting them. Yeah, he's already hitting them. Oh, great comment from Paulie, where Liam Cohen would just been like, "Da Bears."
Who wins in a drag contest between Liam Conehead and Jackson Mahomes?
Oh man, I
Next
don't know.
next question. We got to go to break.
I haven't pictured.
This episode is brought to you by Taco Bell. It's not. That's hashtag not an ad.
It's the Dr. Phil. We'll be right back. But yeah, Liam Conehead, man. Holy Christ. Oh, the scumbag that is Dan Bernsey. I couldn't fathom. And Farius, thank you for bringing this up because
yes, thank you, buddy.
That.
Yes,
after seeing what Bernstein has done in the last 6 months, I might tell him to just go fuck himself if I saw him face to face. That guy.
It's getting to the point. Let me make the case for Dan Bernstein. This is the stepping stone that you see with dementia becoming Alzheimer's. And we're watching it happen in the public space. I'm legitimately starting to feel bad for Bernstein.
I don't, because I think what he does is I don't blame dementia. I blame a creepy old man living in a modern world. And if you go back and from what I've seen, his old articles, his old stuff, he was one of the worst.
Wow, we're in lockstep, brother. Put that up for context.
What's that?
Just an article from the Tribune for Dan Bernstein.
Oh, you have
the piece that I'm sharing.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So
2005.
Making sexist comments and stuff like that. And now he's hopped on his high horse every opportunity he gets to just be this altruistic defender of the people who need no defending. And then Declan Doyle, who is not a representation of his father. I mean, come on. Like, what are we talking about?
Creepy old man, leave me out of this. Foster, no strays for you today, my good sir. You're good, man.
And then he just hops on this bandwagon of altruism about how this guy's going to be bad because he's the kid of the guy who was a piece of shit. Fuck you, Bernstein, you fucking asshole. I have no more to say on Bernstein, but fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's a total piece of crap, man. I mean, just to kind of slap labels on people, like, that's the type of shit that we want to stop. Like, yeah. You are the problem. And between his bullshit and hopefully the Chicago side finally trying to clap back at him, and then from the other side of the Lake of Michigan, you've got the great Michigan fan, owner of Barstool, I can't think of his name, David Portnoy.
Yeah.
Hopefully this guy can fucking get himself into his retirement home and get the help that he deserves, because Bernstein, you are a piece of shit.
Yeah, agreed. So great comment from Cliff Victoria. Hey, Embarrassed. Luke Skywalker did okay, despite his father.
It's got to be a YouTube short. That's fucking fantastic.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah. On the other side, just some coaching roundups, because I didn't know that there's a full-on thing going on, and it's great. Clint Kubiak got hired by the Seahawks. I don't know how much of an upgrade that's going to end up being for Clint
Hold on
Kubiak.
a second. Wait, no, that's Bobby Slowick. So Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, got fired, but we'll save on that. Clint Kubiak is
going from the
he was
Saints.
the one. Clint Kubiak had 2 games to start the year for the Saints, and he was the reason why I was told that the Chicago Bears should be dissolved as an NFL franchise for passing on him. Yeah. Well, no, he kind of sucks too. So, best of luck to you.
That's one of the moves that we can report on and kind of discuss. I don't know nearly enough about Kelvin Shepard to make a comment. If anybody's a Detroit Lions fan or knows a little bit more about them, has been following them, Kelvin Shepard got internally promoted to defensive coordinator over Aaron Glenn, linebacker coach, and upgraded. Good for them. Any comments or any knowledge?
None at all. I mean, I'd like to go on to the Bobby Slowick move because I've got some little bit of underground insider knowledge on that.
We're getting to it. I do love, and I don't know how this got lost in the cycle. Robert Saleh returning to San Francisco as the defensive coordinator.
It was always a foregone conclusion. That's the coordinator Mike Vrabel hire of this cycle. Because the only thing that could have screwed that up would be the Jaguars retaining their general manager and being a terrible franchise and giving it to a leader of men type with Robert Saleh. And I think Saleh, I don't know if he had any other head coaching links, but it always felt like Saleh returning to the 49ers was just a foregone conclusion. Now, that's going to be a team that unfortunately the Chicago Bears have to play next year, and they are going to be a fucking force.
Yeah, it's going to be a wagon. Liam Cohen, we mentioned. Brian Schottenheimer, we mentioned getting promoted. With the Cowboys, I'm surprised they didn't officially name Matt Eberflus as the coordinator. Maybe that hasn't gone.
They couldn't.
Pen and paper.
It has. It's been, well, not like officially, right? No pictures with him with the Cowboys, but it's already been agreed upon to, as per Adam Schefter.
Yeah. I can't wait to see Liam Cohen's staff. I can't fathom what that's going to be or look like. But Duval and Falcons doing some stuff. Defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich got retained. Nothing much there. Pete Carroll to the Raiders feels very awkward, very mismatch made in heaven.
Now, let me take you full circle on that, right? There was a little bit of beef, I believe, between Jim Harbaugh and Mr. Wow, my memory. Pete Carroll in college.
Okay.
Because of Stanford versus USC.
USC.
But let's not forget the Legion of Boom antics with the 49ers versus the Seahawks. We're going to be getting 2 of those games per year now. Pete Carroll versus Jim Harbaugh. That's going to be some good television watching. Good football watching.
I don't hate that for the Raiders just because it feels a bit more safe and something I would not have expected from the Raiders. It helps me calm down about the whole Shedeur Dion thing. I think you're just going to see a nice, slow, incremental increase in talent from the Raiders and how that team and franchise are operated as. I did see a picture of Pete Carroll walking into the building. He does not look like the spry, nimble Pete Carroll of even 2 years ago, but he does return as the NFL's oldest head coach by a lot. And so good luck to them. Hope that works out. GM John Spytek, formerly Bucks assistant GM, officially named with Tom Telesco. Good for the Bucks. I'll say this as a caveat because I thought about this with Liam Cohen and then John Spytek. Good for the Bucks for producing people that keep getting plucked out of their organization. I don't know if they've demonstrated enough in the last 2 to 3 years since Tom Brady's departure for teams around the NFL to just say, what a masterclass of organizational function. And we need to start picking apart your assistants and your GMs and your coordinators. That could be me just not being in the NFL and knowing the fine details and minutia, but I don't know if I've seen enough from the Bucks at 9-7 seasons in a row, and I can't name you their last 5 draft picks. Maybe you can.
Kalijah Kancey's a home run. Kalijah Kancey. Do you mean like last 5 years, first round pick?
No, like their last or even this last 2 or 3 first round picks. Like I don't know who they drafted and why.
Definitely Kalijah Kancey was kind of the original bowling ball with knives. I love Kalijah Kancey. But what you're struggling to allude to here is just the Baker Mayfield factory. And Baker Mayfield was kissed by God, a.k.a. Sean McVay, who turned his career around, went to Tampa Bay, and that's, your match made in heaven. This is the the Baker Mayfield coaching tree with Dave Canales and now Liam Conehead.
That's how I feel about it. So I don't know if you're not getting a Baker Mayfield if for Dave Canales and you're not getting one for Liam Cohen. If anything, Trevor Lawrence is Kirkland brand Baker Mayfield. He's just a safer, less risky pick.
Now here's what I'll say as far as being really skeptical of Ohio State's finest quarterback prospect, C.J. Stroud. I would not be surprised if the Jaguars won that division next year. They've literally already done it very recently. They beat the Chargers in that comeback victory in the playoffs, and If they can surround Trevor Lawrence with elite talent, which we know their owner loves to spend money, I don't know when they're picking in the draft, but I could see them piecing that together and, limping into the division at, 10-9 wins.
So
division victory.
I'm glad you added that caveat because you're like, I wouldn't be surprised with them winning the division. Winning how? At what, 9 wins, 10 wins? That's not a dominant performance
9
for
wins
me.
where you absolutely slaughter the worst team in football currently, the Tennessee Titans, who, by the way, Tennessee Titans, you cannot buy a good team like you can in baseball. You are not the Dodgers.
And then simultaneously, I think the Colts are probably on a downturn. I think with Anthony Richardson.
The Colts with the most inaccurate quarterback in NFL history, the great running back himself, Anthony Richardson.
I don't see that getting any better anytime soon. And then thirdly, here's the problem with the Jaguars. If you're not familiar, they are in, I think, the second or third worst cap situation in the NFL with what they did in terms of paying. Who did they bring in? I'm sorry. It was
They bet everything on red, so to speak. They spent their yearly lunch money allowance on the wide receiver from Christian Kirk from Arizona.
Christian Kirk, thank you. Christian Kirk, and then at the same time when they re-signed not Miles Jack, it was Josh Allen. Hines Allen.
Hey, hold on. Are you suggesting that Joshua Hines Allen is not the best defensive end in the NFL? So I'll fight you on that too.
I mean, he might be top 7, but I wouldn't go further than that.
I'm not a big film guy, right? Like I don't grind film all day and night and lose sleep like Jacob Infante, right? So I did watch the All-22 where the Jaguars played in London against the Chicago Bears. And I'm not saying that Braxton Jones is a Hall of Famer, but Jesus Christ, Joshua Hines Allen had a fucking day against the Bears. He is a fantastic football player. I couldn't
agree more. But
I would sell Paulie's social security number on the black market in a heartbeat if it meant that Joshua Hines Allen played one meaningful snap for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of these stupid hypotheticals already kind of coming back up as if it was last year for the Bears, and I just kind of want to nip those in the bud before people start freaking about Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons and all these people. Please stop doing this to yourselves, people. Please stop.
Let's wait 1 year for that talk.
Let's wait to see what the fuck you need to do first before you get to luxurious stuff.
But yeah, it would be very okay with me to just make a stupid move. I say that in quotations because Khalil Mack was not a stupid move, but you thought you had it made with Matt Nagy and Mitchell Trubisky, or at least because of the resources you had to invest into them, you thought you had it right. But I do think that after a full season, after the 2025 season, you will know if Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams are the match that you need. And if they are, if there's no shadow of a doubt that they are, and we're talking about a fringe all-pro season from Caleb Williams and a top 5 scoring offense, whatever metric you prefer, fuck it. Go trade everything for Micah Parsons. Sure. Yeah, but not yet.
So moving through, hey Prometheus, thanks, dude.
Is this Big Baller Brand?
Yeah, thanks, Prometheus. It's always nice.
Thank you, buddy.
See from you, hear from you, and also obviously Super Chat, man. That's always so generous, and we appreciate it.
I need to fact check this, but Prometheus may be the guy who commented on one of my most recent YouTube shorts 30 seconds after it was posted.
Oh, dude, I think Prometheus met your channel through one of our combined channels. Prometheus is the best, dude. You're gonna.
I'm gonna be very transparent with this lovely audience. Ampharius and Prometheus. It's hard for me to differentiate you guys because you guys have like a similar name, right? Ampharius, you are fantastic. I know that you are a Michigan fan, but Prometheus, I can't remember if you are a Michigan fan as well. Nonetheless, you guys in chat are fantastic today. You guys are fantastic all the time. And whether it's a $5 donation, a $500 donation, I hope I'm speaking for Dave when I say that your time is just as valuable. So thank you so very much for your guys' time and investment.
Time and interaction, man. I love the chat. It just feels like a nice little buddy meeting every week of 20 or 25 people that we just consistently talk to. And
it's beautiful stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Catching up real quick before we get into your boy. I'm just following the list here, so sorry about that. But Mike Vrabel, obviously, I think he's putting together an offseason that can rival Ben Johnson's hiring. It's just fucking phenomenal. Josh McDaniels at offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown at assistant passing game coordinator and tight ends coach. And then Terrell Williams, former linebacker, fucking awesome, as defensive coordinator. Great. I mean, I don't know. Or I'm sorry, former Terrell Williams. I'm sorry. 16s, as defensive coordinator. Yeah, Terrell Williams. I remember playing 2K5 and hearing Terrell Williams with the pick.
I'm gonna have to refresh myself on Terrell Williams. I was able actually to get some Spotrac cap space brought up. I don't know if there's been any wiggle or if there's a move that needs to be made for this to happen or anything like that. But just off of this graphic that I have right now, I'll share it if you want.
Yeah.
Jacksonville has $35 million in cap space this year, so
That's
they're
a
not
shockingly
necessarily
large amount.
Yes, and they're 16th best, 17th best. So it's not like a terrible like suicide situation, so to speak, for these guys. But
I do feel like I heard they were in a bad situation, but that might have been going into last year and how they've allocated their resources. Maybe it was an all-in type situation, but it doesn't leave them much room for improvement. However, the things that they keep doing, which I think would be great, it's not really working out. I thought like Eric Armstead is kind of wasted.
That was a terrible move. Yeah, I mean they were shooting for the stars. They thought that they could build the Avengers, and bravo to them to thinking that pairing any sort of average talent with Joshua Hines Allen would be capable, because it is. But at the end of the day, Eric Armstead sucks.
Yeah. Tennessee hired Mike Borgonzi, John Fossil as special teams coordinator. I don't see much really mattering there. Tennessee, good for you guys. 3 GMs in 3 fucking years. Fuck off.
You might want to make it full screen just so everyone can see real quick. So there's
New England with the top space, Las Vegas, Washington, Arizona, Chicago. LA with number 6 is terrifying. Minnesota with 7 is terrifying.
Well, that 65 goes to 45 once Keenan Allen goes home, right? So I'm not too terrified of that, so to speak.
Minnesota's much scarier. Detroit is much scarier. San Francisco, how that is even top 10 makes no sense to me. And then, like you said, Jacksonville right there in the middle with Denver and Indy.
You've got $52 million in cap space for San Francisco when your rookie quarterback is going to start asking for $50 million a year. So is that really that terrifying as well?
That makes perfect sense. You're right. I didn't even put that together.
Because I'm pretty sure slouches like you and me, if we really busted our ass and abused Adderall, maybe we'd be able to make the same $900,000 a year that Brock Purdy's making. I mean, it's in the realm, right? Like, we're not talking about idiot unobtainable money, right? All I'm saying there is that Brock Purdy is criminally underpaid. Criminally.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'd pay him $50 million. And San Fran is in a really big no-win situation, I would say.
Let's take the step back and do the third point of view. How can Jordan Love make more money than Brock Purdy? How?
Great point. I think they fucked up re-signing Brandon Ayuk, honestly.
Oh, he's tragically bad.
I think that's the biggest mistake they've made in a while. Going through Indianapolis, getting Lou Anarumo. Here's my thing. I don't even get the Lou Anarumo hype. Cincinnati has never had a good defense while he's been there. That could be lack of players. That could be lack of whatever else. However, everything I hear from players and coaches and everything that you hear about people who love Lou Anarumo say he's a top 5 defensive coordinator in the league. He's smart. He's basically Steve Spagnuolo, but never reaches that peak. What that means for people, I don't know, man. Like, people are just obsessed with Lou Anarumo. I don't get it. I don't see it, but good for Indianapolis for getting him. I mean, we'll find out. I don't think it makes Indy much, much better. But
no, I would be really upset if I was the Colts. I don't know how to get better. And again, you have to pray that your probable running back, who is the most inconsistent quarterback, inaccurate quarterback in the NFL, needs to really elevate. I mean, I watched the Bears release their top 10 plays of 2024, and one of them was just that terrible pass to Tremaine Edmonds, literally like an underhand shovel gift. Like, how can you let these things happen as an NFL quarterback? It's just, I'd be terrified if I'm a Colts fan.
I'm going to put Ampharius' comment on, and if you want to start on Bobby Slowick, go for it.
Okay, so I feel vindication for the Houston Texans and just Texans in general or Houston based podcast that I did a show in the preseason and maybe before our week 2 matchup against the Texans. They were all over from the jump that Bobby Slowick sucked and was terrible. And this is a big proponent to thinking that C.J. Stroud could elevate himself into a top 10, top 5 quarterback because he regressed, but oh my God, it came out, in my opinion, that Slowick was terrible. A lot of people thought it was a surprise fire. Not at all. He's bad, and did we figure out where Bobby Slowick is going?
It is not an officially reported thing yet. I don't know if he has a landing spot. I saw a really great point from another Houston, Texans fan, and kind of to counter your claims. And we're all locked in there inside. When we're fans of that local team. Bobby Slowick, if I'm not mistaken, had like a top 10 defense. Top 10 offense the year prior with a fullback. Okay. With CJ Stroud, and then having that unexpectedly nice season that they did. What Bobby Slowick comes from is a fullback driven system from San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. They gave him his offensive system with CJ Stroud. And if you remember how that looked like in the beginning, it was a totally different offense. Offseason happens. They get Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell heals up, and Nico Collins has an emergence. And all of a sudden, there's supposed to be this 3-wide spread offense with Joe Mixon, and that's just not Bobby Slowick's bag. And Bobby Slowick's bag is a little bit more, Kyle Shanahan-esque. And you would never ask Kyle Shanahan to run 3-wide constantly and consistently. And if he did, I don't think he'd be Kyle Shanahan. The other part of it is you lose 2 of your top 3 receivers for the year and Nico Collins for about 8 games. And it's all his fault to the point where he's so bad that he deserves to get fired. I don't know if that's the case, but I'm presenting the counter argument as to why maybe it's not as cut and dry as a lot of people want to make it out to be. I don't think Bobby Slowick was a disaster.
I hear you. It's just from the people that I trust that are in the cut, like you said, they identified that he was a problem going into this year. So for that to come to fruition, I hear what you're saying about a fullback, and let me full circle to the Chicago Bears. How good would a fullback incorporated offense where your star fullback is Roschon Johnson? How good would that offense be?
Not as good as a Doug Kramer-led one, I'll tell you that much.
I like that joke, but in all seriousness, what do you think about Roschon Johnson kind of being left out of the running back room picture and being that, I like to compare him to the great C.J. Ham of the Minnesota Vikings, a utility, do what you can for the football team type of player, and being a special teams ace. Rescue his career as a 4th-round pick. What do you think about that?
I don't recall Detroit running any fullbacks. However, Ben Johnson has openly said so far that he's going to rip it to the studs and run what needs to be run here based on what they're good at rather than dropping his Detroit playbook into the Bears team. Specifically to answer your Roschon Johnson, if he wants to keep his fucking job, he better do whatever they tell him to. I don't necessarily believe too much in that whole running back converting into fullback thing. I think fullbacks are built different. I think they're like former linebackers that weren't fast enough to make it as linebackers, but they still like to hit people.
You're proving my point. I need to dig up the comments that I saw. You can minimize that. It's not the full context. This is a name for the offensive line coach that I wanted to point out because I think someone asked about that. But specifically for that linebacker comment, did you know that as a rookie, Richard Hightower compared Roschon Johnson to a linebacker in the sense that he has the ability to tackle extremely well when it pertains to special teams?
I did not, but that's good to know.
So that's kind of where the basis of my argument is. If you've got a coach that I really, really respect having those types of comments, I think that if you want to save his career, you should transition Roschon Johnson into a fullback. And I think that you need to not allow him to be a primary focal point of your offense when it comes to the running back room. Because we saw that experiment. Our version of Sonic and Knuckles this year, DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson, which was used inversely, right? Our Sonic was being deployed in the Knuckles role, and our Knuckles was being deployed in the Sonic role. just did not fucking work out, man. And I think that Roshan Johnson as a running back is just not capable of it.
Yeah. Seeing this stat that you just put up as Dan Rushar. I don't know how much connections with Dennis Allen he has, but this guy, I like the resume.
That's the year from 2016 to 2020, but Dan Rushar spent 10 years at the New Orleans Saints, okay? Which he was directly, he may be a free agent. I simply have no idea. He still might be with the Saints. All I can tell you is that Dan Rushar has deep ties to the Dennis Allen and Sean Payton little, niblets that we're acquiring here now in Chicago. So if that was the first thing that I thought of was Ryan Ramczyk. If Dan Ruchar is any sort of responsible for Ryan Ramczyk, God help me, please allow him to come to the Bears.
Yeah, that's a really good resume. I will say that. Cliff, I like this comment from Cliff. I saw some people freaking out about like tennis where they have like the slow motion cameras and stuff. And yeah, dude,
we're talking about 2 sensors in the football, right? At the tips, just the tip. No, you need 3. Oh my God.
I don't know, man. At this point, I agree. Just do something.
Well,
do something to take that shit out of the game.
Let me see if I can conceptualize this, though. My dad was involved in the car biz, and he would always have some, top-of-the-line, brand-new Cadillacs as a demo that he'd be driving, right? The technology in those would be that you have cameras that are looking at something and helping you compile an overhead view. So while he's driving, you could see the top of the car and everything moving around it from like a third person. It was downright eerie. But they could implement that type of technology into football.
You know where they can implement some brains into the problem there to begin with? And I said this yesterday watching that game.
If you say Jackson Mahomes, if you say Jackson Mahomes in regard to brain, I'm gonna lose it. I'm sorry. That's the last one for the next 30 seconds.
No, it's to hire some full-time fucking refs. Because I don't understand how you can keep paying these guys $100,000, have them work 3 to 4 months a year, former lawyers, retired lawyers, part-time lawyers, law firm owners, blah, blah, blah. And these guys work 3 to 4 months a year, review the rules, come out and do a bunch of bullshit. It's like 150 to 200K a year or whatever. Have them be full-time. It's the NFL. If there's one place you can spend unlimited money to improve the quality of the game, this is the same way I was arguing with somebody at work and, in terms of competitive advantage and all that stuff. Look, there's teams that, the Bears, kudos to, George McCaskey. I'll give him a little 2 clap, but he is about to put together one of the most expensive coaching rosters in the NFL. It's just between Al Harris, Antoine Randall, Dennis Allen, former head coaches, how much you're paying Ben Johnson. Kudos. That's a way you can get a genuine competitive advantage where one of the things that keeps the NFL fair is the salary cap. The salary cap and the draft order. It's one of those beautiful cyclical things and why people love the NFL and love the worst to first and all that stuff. It's not baseball. It's not the LA Dodgers. If you're a baseball fan right now watching what the LA Dodgers are doing, you're disgusted. And that's kind of one of those things. So the NFL, it's one way you can get a competitive advantage or just an upgrade in your sport. You can make your sport better and more popular and have it not be talked about in a negative light. Unless you like this shit that's going on where people talk about how fucking shitty NFL refereeing is because it puts you in the media cycle. That's possibly a truth as well. But you can make your quality of product significantly better by just spending, I don't know, an extra, what are we talking here in terms of the billions of dollars the NFL makes? $10, $20 million a year? $20 million a year will probably get you full-time staffed NFL refs across the league. Maybe let's round up, say 50. I don't know the logistics of it all. But if you pay, $500,000 salaries to these guys that are normally making $100,000 to be full-time NFL refs, you're significantly improving the quality of the sport.
Yeah, I feel like maybe cohesion regarding officiating units would also go a long way as well. And I don't know, I always hear the term crews being talked about how this crew has the best percentage of bad calls, so that's why they've been elected to play in the Super Bowl. But imagine these guys get to do it year in, year out together. The only thing that I'd be nervous about in that sense then is kind of the bad that could come from that. We had the NBA situation where there was a referee actively betting on games and essentially fixing games in that sense, right? I don't know if that could spill over if you employ full-time guys. Yeah,
That
yeah. If they would mess up Vegas's plan, that would definitely cause some issues. You're not wrong, Foster. You're not wrong.
he's right, because if the games are more consistent and predictable, then having huge upsets in the NFL would be less likely, and people would lose less money and win more money, and that's not good for anybody, I guess.
Agreed.
So yeah. Any more comments on the coaching situations?
No, I think that by now all of the positions have been filled as far as head coaches, right? Or is there still one more position up for grabs? I can't.
New Orleans.
Right. So they let everyone go. They let their offensive coordinator go. We talked about that. Obviously, their defensive coordinator / former head coach was fired in season. They seem kind of screwed, man. Who are they?
I think that's a full teardown, man. They're not even they're tanking for Arch Manning because they love the Mannings.
And they're the biggest proponent for me saying that the salary cap is a myth, because I don't know if I got to show the bottom of that list. The Saints are like negative $60 million in cap, man. It's terrible. So a guy like Mike McCarthy, is he going to go there? No, I doubt it. You are going to have to tear that thing down to the studs, or at the very least you should.
I mean, I think a 1-year absolute tank job of free agents and terrible players, Kellen Moore being flown in tonight.
Right, so Kellen Moore is your offensive coordinator. I labeled him as kind of, I think I said this ironically, where Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio are forever coordinators. They'll never be a good head coach. They're on the same damn team. I think when I made those comments, I didn't really recognize that. But yeah, I don't know if Kellen Moore is going to be the man for the job. I mean, a young mind, you give him a chance, but I feel like the Saints' job is just being set up for failure.
I agree, and with how many pieces are being stripped in New Orleans, I do appreciate the subtle New Orleans to Chicago connections, because there are some decent players there that might be scrapped for parts that you can kind of reclaim and help a young coach like Ben Johnson kind of have some stability and veteran leadership.
You're gonna get your Cam Jordan. I'm willing to pool some money in with you to make a fat bet on that, man.
Yeah,
it's gonna happen.
I think so too. The Cam Jordans of the world. I wouldn't even be surprised if you cut DeAndre Swift and replace him with Alvin Kamara.
Now, as much as I would love that, I do feel like Alvin Kamara is their ticket seller. It just will not happen. And then I don't know if you have heard me say this. I know that I have said this out onto the public spaces, maybe at least only one time. But if you want Alvin Kamara via the draft, watch some Jaden Blue highlights tonight. Jaden Blue, the running back out of Texas. Just watch some highlights.
I appreciate you not mentioning Ashton Genty for an hour and 22 minutes. That might be
I have graduated from the Ashton Genty thought and come full circle onto this. What if the Chicago Bears traded the first overall pick to the Carolina Panthers for a franchise quarterback, a starting wide receiver, and a starting running back? Omarion Hampton, starting running back out of the University of North Carolina, the house that Jordan built. That's the running back that I would like the Chicago Bears to draft at the moment.
I'm so confused. They're trading for all three?
Well, we'd use our second-round pick that we acquired in the trade, the last piece that we have in this puzzle.
To give back to Carolina and get Omarion Hampton.
So it's not just that it's a second-round pick that we're going to use on a 50-50 chance at a good offensive lineman, right? That'd be boring. But your pillars, right? Like, imagine a promo poster where you have your starting wide receiver, your starting running back, and your iconic franchise quarterback, Caleb Williams. And that's all acquired via one trade. Give Ryan Poles the goddamn gold jacket.
The only Ashton Genty thing I would tolerate at this point or situation is if you're trading out of 10 because Kelvin Banks is gone. There was a guy who's the left tackle from Oregon. He is mark my words, that's going to be the riser in the draft. That guy's going to be
I'm already seeing some underground footage, shout out to Adam Mason, of guys that are coming out of the woodworks of being like a top 10 tackle at right tackle. Just guys we've never heard of. Now, yeah. I'll give you this. and I told this to Adam. At least one of these tackles, if not two, are going to go in the top 10 and probably the top 9 before the Bears out of desperation, because tackles go in the top 10. If you look at the All-Pro list, the top tackles are primarily top 10 draft picks. So that's where you have to get your good tackles. But if you're the Chicago Bears and you don't have, there are 6 positions among the interior offensive line, all 3 starters, all 3 secondary players, assuming you cut Ryan Bates. They're not under contract. And you're going to use a top 10 asset on a fucking tackle when you've got the apple of your eye, Braxton Jones' beautiful contract sitting there? And here's a thought as well. Maybe we have Karan Amagaji get some starting reps while Braxton Jones is finalizing his healing process to see if our 3rd-round pick cannot be thrown to the wayside. I think if the Chicago Bears draft a tackle at 10 to start over both of those men, I might cry myself to sleep that night.
And this is where I was kind of going with this. I think if you're reaching for tackle at 10 because it's cookie cutter, I think you're better off trading to 18, 17. Then I'll tolerate an Ashton Genty, 18, 17, 20 if he falls that far.
Here we're talking bets, Bet US. I know we're not sponsored them. Just shout out to the Bears Country podcast, but Ashton Genty's not getting past Dallas.
Oof. That makes sense. That's a ticket seller right there.
He's also said that he would prefer to play in Dallas. I'll see if I can find the audio clip, but I have it on his stream.
I do.
He doesn't want to play for Chicago.
Yeah.
No. On a YouTube live stream.
Oh, wow.
This was suggesting that he needed some media training, but let me see if I can find it for you.
Gotcha. Yeah, so yeah, that would make sense. But otherwise, I've seen talks of like the guard from Alabama or the guard from Georgia or something like that.
In the second round, Alabama. I think it's Tyler Booker, but don't hold me to that.
It is exactly Tyler Booker, and I've seen a mock draft 1.0 Bears at 10, Tyler Booker.
Another situation where I can't continue the podcast for you because my body wouldn't be able to produce a heartbeat.
Very good. Yeah. And one of those DNs are not going to be there, unfortunately, Foster. Those defensive ends are going to be Abdul Carter's going top 2, and it probably won't be 2. And then I forgot who the other guy was from
God? You don't know the name of God?
Mason Graham. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I appreciate you, Dave. I appreciate you so much, Dave.
And Mason Graham will go 5 or 6. So
1. Heard it here first. Mason Graham could go first overall. It's possible.
And so could my mom. So
wow.
Yeah. So could, But let's wrap this up. We got Eagles, Chiefs, Super Bowl. Next week we will be back. We're going to do a little bit something off the cuff. We're going to do our mock draft, our top 15 or a top 10 mock draft. We haven't decided how fast or how far we're going to go.
And I'll add on to that, there could be a time sink that is, it's NFL related, but it has nothing to do with anything we've talked about today. I think it could be a lot of fun.
Sounds good. And then Carl has a nice surprise for us. So Carl, official Super Bowl, I don't know, predictions or thoughts. You don't have to give me a score or prediction, but hit me with your thoughts on the Super Bowl.
I think that the Eagles could come out and appear to be dominant. I think that they could dominate the line of scrimmage and have their running back be the star of the show, and they could go out to a 2-score lead. But just as I was on the camp of not betting against Jaden Daniels last week, you already alluded to it, it would be asinine to bet against Patrick Mahomes and the referees and everything else. And at this point, I want the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Not because I appreciate excellence, they can take their excellence and shove it up their ass. I want Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, and Patrick Mahomes to retire.
And Andy Reid.
Wow, Matt Nagy taking over. It's possible. Now, what is obtainable in the following year for Andy Reid? I'll have to do some homework. If Andy Reid wins a Super Bowl, what's his motivation to come back? Could Andy Reid become the most winning head coach in the regular season or the playoffs? Or it's just too far, it's not within a season of reach?
I think he's somewhere in the vicinity of like 70 missing games. So he would have to win 10 to 13 win seasons for 6 to 7 more years, which is not that realistic if you're
Sounds like
losing that
Andy
many
Reid needs
players.
an Adderall sponsorship.
Andy Reid, I'm gonna be nice. Based on Andy Reid's track record as a human being, I don't think Andy Reid cares about or lives for much other than football. And so that's where I'm going to leave that and be nice about it. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But Andy Reid is kind of a
His
piece
brother?
of shit that only likes football.
Oh, I thought you were talking about football.
Just children.
Yeah, I'll have to do some research on that, I guess. If you want me to capstone off my point regarding Ashton Genty, I've thrown it up. Hopefully it doesn't get copyrighted. It shouldn't. It should be fast. I don't think there's any music, but take a listen, gentlemen. This is, again, Ashton Genty from his YouTube channel was asked by a live stream viewer in the audience if Ashton Genty would play for the Chicago Bears.
Would I like being on the Bears? Y'all got it back already. Y'all got DeAndre Swift. I'm not gonna lie, Chicago is too cold. It's too cold. I can't do that one.
He goes on to mention, I think, the Dallas Cowboys, but
I remember that clip now. I don't understand. Is Idaho a warm weather state? I don't understand, but
I'm not too sure, man. But I know he has. I don't know about that. About a lot of in stadium games.
I'm just saying, Boise State ain't exactly in
Hold on.
Florida.
Hold on. The man of mustache rides, Foster. You gotta throw that up just for culture. Love it. Love that from Foster. Love the pure emotion.
Foster's like, I just didn't even turn on my heater during the -3 degrees. He's like, what a
Oh, that's ironic. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Yeah, I agree with Prometheus, man. We don't need the excuses. We definitely don't need a diva running back. That'd be the first of many, or first of any.
Yeah, problems. My thoughts on the Super Bowl, I think it's just identical to what you just said. I see everything on paper that should lead to an Eagles victory. It's everything that's in the recipe to beat Patrick Mahomes, to keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes, to beat the strengths of the Eagles team is all the weaknesses of the Chiefs team, or that could counter any possible strengths that the Chiefs could produce. Having said all of that, Chiefs probably win it again. And like you said, in terms of what I want to see, I don't necessarily want to see a fentanyl Philly Super Bowl. I mean, the town of Philadelphia would overdose overnight.
There's no good outcome for the city of Philadelphia. It's going to be fentanyl mayhem either way, good or bad.
Yeah, right. Just celebrate a victory or a loss with fentanyl. So it's just, and so.
Alshon Jeffrey, this is your fault. I hate the Eagles, particularly because of you and your shit attitude.
Yeah, and so I don't really necessarily need Philly to feel happy, and the lesser of two evils, I suppose, is Philadelphia in this case. But if you could guarantee me Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Andy Reid, and or Chris Jones retiring, I would gladly watch them win and not have to see Taylor Swift on my television anymore.
A taboo comment to that, too, would probably involve Patrick Mahomes' home being robbed and something terrible going on there while he's playing in the biggest game of the year. Which he's already been robbed by the secret cartel. I believe that Mahomes and Kelsey's homes were robbed at the exact same time. The fantastic Joe Burrow's house was robbed by the cartel while he was playing a football game, and a mistress, not his soon-to-be girlfriend, wife, had to make the call. So a little bit of scary stuff going on there too, but now we're just pontificating at this point, so I apologize.
Yeah. Cliff, I'm sorry that your brain is wired that way to find that commercial amusing. I love you, Cliff.
It's like brain rot. It's like brain rot, but was that commercial aired before Ben Johnson, the great Ben Johnson, came up with the stumble Ruski against the Chicago Bears? Did Andy Reid's success give the Chicago Bears their next head coach, just as I prophesized or claim that Jaden Daniels gave us? Narcan? All right.
The Super Bowl brought to you by Narcan.
The effects of overdose. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
It's gonna be mandatory. It's gonna be a mandatory commercial due to the fact that Philadelphia is in the Super Bowl. Yeah, side effects may include Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl. But yeah. So I think that wraps it up. We will be back next week with a bit of a change. I think the mock drafts are fun. This is definitely when I deep dive and start, falling asleep to mock draft highlights of football players throughout the year. So I will be a little bit better educated on the draft moving forward. And and Carl will have a nice little surprise for us in terms of content. So thank you, everybody, as always, for watching us bullshit about football. Thank you so much. Great participation in the chat. And that's all I've got for the week.
Yeah, thank you guys so very much. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Again, your time above anything. Cannot express how much we appreciate it. So thank you guys so much. Like Dave said, next week it'll be a little bit more relaxed, fun episode, just like the NFL. Going to be getting some Pro Bowl instead of some actual game. But having to sit in that dirty bathwater of a Eagles-Chiefs Super Bowl for 2 weeks is going to kind of suck.
Ugh. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to any of that press conference bullshit. Let's skip over that and just watch the game, please. But yeah, Carl?
Has anyone asked, is there any roundabout way for someone to insinuate to a Chris Jones, a Travis Kelce, a Patrick Mahomes that they could be retiring? Has anyone asked that this year? Because I feel like they haven't, and the AI data scrapers who love us, someone's gonna ask that question, and I'm gonna go ballistic once they do. That'll confirm that someone's listening to us. Someone important.
It'd be nice. I don't think anybody's directly asked, but I think it's about time that we do ask.
Yeah, Cliff, kudos to you. I think it's funny that the hated insurance companies try to outdo each other for comedy. Yep, kind of sucks.
Yeah. Oh, I was just bugging with you, Cliff. But also that commercial is a screwdriver in my ears every time. So.
I agree, man. I agree.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. We'll be back next week. See you guys.
Peace out, gentlemen.